Hello, my name is Tyler Blackburn, and today I'm going to be talking about the poem A Farewell by poet Harriet Monroe. This poem is special because it discusses something that a lot of people unfortunately have experienced, or they know someone who has experienced this. In this poem, Monroe talks about her view on death and how she believes people should view it. The interesting thing is, in her poem, she looks at death in a unique way compared to most poems about this tragic event. So we'll go on to this next slide here where I'll read it for you. A Farewell by Harriet Monroe. Goodbye. No, do not grieve that it is over, the perfect hour, that the winged joy, sweet honey-loving rover, flits from the flower. Grieve not, it is the law, love will be flying, yes, love and all. Glad was the living, blessed be the dying, let the leaves fall. So now I'm going to divide this poem up into the two stanzas. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of words here, but there's a lot to be discussed within these two small stanzas. So we're going to start with the first four lines. So with the title, A Farewell, a lot of people would put words such as sadness or unhappiness with that word. A lot of times a farewell is something that you don't want to do, that you don't want to say, but you're kind of forced to say it. And the first word in this poem, goodbye, shows how this isn't the emotion that's being portrayed. Goodbye with the exclamation point shows that there's more of an excitement, there's more of a happiness to this farewell. And even though the reader may not realize that it is about death, it sets up that happy and positive mood for the rest of the poem. Then, as you can see in this stanza, there's also a lot of positive language. You have words such as joy, sweet, loving, and flower. Obviously, words that invoke happiness, that invoke excitement, and that you see beauty in. And that's what Monroe is trying to compare, what she's trying to compare death to. And then we also have the comparison of the butterfly. So obviously, just like the positive words, the positive language, a butterfly invokes this positive language, invokes these thoughts of beauty as what people see, and that's what she wants them to also see in death and people that have passed away. Now moving on to the second stanza, the first thing that stands out is grieve not. In the first line of the first stanza, she also mentions something about grieving, or about not grieving, sorry, and she wants to imprint this in people's minds that yes, it is good to grieve, but you don't want to just grieve. You don't want to be unhappy all of the time. At some point, you need to accept the death and accept the beauty that is in it and find the happiness. And then she also emphasizes love in here. Obviously, love will be flying. Yes, love and all. And she emphasizes this because love obviously correlates with happiness, and people can think about their loved ones that passed away, the love that they passed on, the love that they showed during their time alive, and the love that the reader may have for them as well. This stanza also has a lot of positive language. You have love, you have glad, you have blessed. And obviously, this shows the happiness and the positivity that can be seen in death. And finally, you have the leaves falling at the end of the stanza as compared to the butterfly in the last stanza. This really ties both stanzas together. And all in all, it tells people, let the leaves fall, let the butterfly flit from the flower. You need to accept death. As hard as that may be, you need to accept that it has happened so you can move on from that. This poem's special to me, and I chose it because it compared to my life. So a couple years ago, I had a friend pass away, and for the longest time, I was angry with God, I was angry with death, and I didn't see why it would happen. I didn't see any positive in it. And after a couple years of my grief, I really started to realize what my friend had left behind, started noticing the positives in his death. He loved so many people around him. He had such a positive attitude about everything, and he made everyone smile. And those are the things that I want to remember him by. Those are the things that I want to try and do every day in order to make myself a better person and to let his legacy live on. So that poem really reminded me a lot of that personal experience I had. And then finally, Monroe's goal with her poem, I think it's ultimately to help those who are still depressed and grieving about death. Obviously, it's an event that is very challenging to overcome. It is very heartbreaking, but Monroe attempts to open people's eyes to the impact people have had during their lifetime prior to their death. And I believe she does this in order to help people accept death and see that there is positive that's present, even in times of sorrow. As hard as it is to find positive in such a time like that, there is positive, and if you can overcome your grief and your depression, you can realize this, and it can make you feel a whole lot better about that person and about death in general.